In a day that could have all but signaled the death of labor movements in Zimbabwe, the ZCTU president was booed and faced a walkout during a speech. In the face of a poor attendance at the heart of a dilapidated Gwanzura Stadium, Florence Taruvinga, who took over from Peter Mtasa, endured a hostile response after chanting what has become President Emerson Mnangagwa's punchline, "Nyika inovakwa nevenevayo." Workers walked out, others booed her and accused the trade unionist of selling out the struggle.
Tiri kunzwa ende tinowirirana nedingi njira inonzi nyika inovakwa nevene vayo. Vene venyika vashandi vemuZimbabwe. Mushandi wemuZimbabwe kana asina chiraramiro havake nyika ino hapana vene vanotaura mushandi achitambura. Comrades and friends, vene venyika munyika yeZimbabwe havadarike vashandi vemuZimbabwe. Vene venyika muZimbabwe vashandi vemuZimbabwe.
Previously a darling of the opposition and a thorn in the flesh of government, the ZCTU appears to have signed its divorce papers with former CCC leader Nelson Chamisa, who was represented by Gift Ostallos Siziba. The young politician left the venue in a huff after Taruvinga appeared to have endorsed Mnangagwa.
In the democratic alternative, celebrate this important day. You know that the struggle with this country is born out of the efforts of the working people. What founded the democratic alternative in this country are the working people. So we continue to celebrate this important day as a people. We celebrate this day as Zimbabweans. We celebrate this day as the daughters and sons of the working people. Obviously, we are celebrating it in a very difficult time. Both the state of the economy in our country, 89% of the people in this country are unemployed. For young people, it's almost 100% of young people working at the blessing of an empty stomach and a jobless existence. The alternative, as led by President Chamisa, continues to celebrate this important historic day, not in the history of our country, but in the history of the struggles world over. That's why we're joining with citizens in Zimbabwe, in Africa, and the world in general to celebrate this important day. Of course, there are fundamental issues around the unions and so forth. That's why you see people expressing themselves around certain interference of the regime with the progressive union in this country. But that's a matter that the workers are dealing with. Our focus and objective is to celebrate this important day as a people, and to make sure that we continue to encourage the few that are working in this country to keep on working, but with intention to ensure that we fight for democratization of this country and ensure that all these people that we are seeing are able to go and have work. We are able to deal with issues of remuneration. Look at government workers. Most of them are getting a salary below poverty line. So we have to make sure that we speak about those issues. Of course, you look at the conditions of the working people, civil servants, nurses, doctors, teachers. All of them are suffering. And the fundamental problem in this country, let me hasten to say, it is the question of governance. Nothing can be resolved without resolving the fundamental questions of government. Those who are occupying the state at the present moment, they have no mandate of the people because it's a stolen mandate, and therefore there is no legitimacy, and the economy becomes the immediate casualty. That's why you see our people unemployed. That's why you see our people being captured. Look at what's happening in parliament, is captured. Look at what's happening to state institutions. Look at the emergence of all these other people who are not government officials participating in quasi-government activities. So all these are signs of illegitimacy, are signs of failure, and that is the root cause that we must talk about. We encourage the people in this country to ensure that we resolve the governance question by having a legitimate government that was voted for by the people. Thank you.
Workers expressed their disappointment on the trade unionist president's inconsiderate rant, saying that they expected it to consider that people are still disgruntled with the August 23 election. Hence, they described it as betrayal to the workers, since the same government is the same government causing the oppression of workers.
next time atidi kuti zvinhu zvakadaro zviite sezvitaure muzore washandi zore washandi ngare zore washandi
vanhu vemuzimbabwe vakatsama kubva pakatanga election vanhu vanenge vakatsama because hurumende iripo haitati kufunga mushandi saka mushandi kutouya kunoti patakasiyira paya paya hurumende inombotifungawo here kuti sisi tiripo saka naizvozvo unoona kuti leader wedu chaiyo wezet unotorasa muromo unotsigira kuti vanhu vaya vanotambudzika saka naizvozvo hazvina kufadza vanhu samba vanhu vavaenda kwavaenda ende moreover isu sevashandi totaza kuti even hurumende tinopemberera May Day 1 nemhaka yekuti izuva redu zvakatita hurumende zoya zvokuti inoti isusu mari inongochinja mari inosenza ndinomira kutambire but inongotitirana nhasi ita 2 weeks munhu anenge tinotambira chii ndorarama next since then saka hurumende ngaidzose mautsinye wainotitira isi tiri vanhu hatina kuti hurumende hatidi asi totoida but utsinye wainotitira isusu hwakanyanya zisingai
ndo yakurana most of the companies muno muzimbabwe muno ende vashandi vachidzvanyirirwa handiti haida kubhadhara vashandi ndo matedhinini iwaya havasina simba kushandisa simba just because kuti vari kutungamirira hurumende vanhu vari kutungamirira macompanies saka vashandi vari kuchema nehurumende both munyika muno kumacompanies because ndo vari kumhanya zvinhu izvozvo but mumwe munhu haafanire kutaura language iyo kana auya pazuva ravashandisa izvozvizvi kuti anotaura kuti nyika inovakwa nevene vayo kunze kuti ataura kuti nyika inovakwa nevashandi vataure zvevashandi kuti vene vayo ipapo semistake yaiteyo hatida kutombomuona munhu yeku we don't support that.
The turnout was low. The displays lacked energy, reflecting people's lack of faith and trust on the country's biggest trade union. Take a listen to Taruinga's speech in full.
Shinga mushandi shinga. Ahoy my comrades ahoy. Mushandi oye. Mavenda oye. Nditenderei kutangisisa semugariro nditende vashandi veZimbabwe ma-citizens eZimbabwe aona zvakakodzera kuungana pazuva rakaoma kudai so zuva rekuti mushandi haachisina chimiro muraramo nemagariro munyika yeZimbabwe. Nditenderei ndikutendei kubva pasi pemoyo wangu nekuti ndinoziva kuoma kwazvaita kuti musiyane ne50 cents musiyane nedola. Hatisi kutaura zvemaZimbabwean dollars kana mazigi nokuti hatisachaziva kushanda kwazvo kuti munge muchisvika pane ino nzvimbo. Vakamiririra Minister vedu Honorable July Moyo vachibva kuMinistry of Labour, Director Vusani Moyo, the ILO Director, my sister P. Masuku, the employer representatives here present, my very own Vice President Nicholas Mazarura here present, General Council members here present, affiliate union leadership here present, ZCTU regional and district structures here present, ZCTU employees here present. Allow me also to recognize the parliamentarians and senators who have seen it fit to commemorate and hear the issues that workers are going to relay today. And of special mention, allow me to thank my sister, the recent past president of the clothing union, whom the workers have elevated to be a senator, Madam Senator Miriam Katumba, councillors here present, trade union veterans here present, political parties here present, on the political parties here present, allow me to reiterate and further express our gratitude for your continued attendance in these gatherings. It clearly speaks to how you value the workers. It's an area that I'm going to address again as I proceed with my speech. The media fraternity here present, comrades and friends, allow me to proceed with the Workers' Day message as mandated. Before I proceed, comrades and friends, it looks like my Secretary General, when I was giving my salutations, he forgot to write himself because he's the same person who wrote the salutations for me. My very own Secretary General, Comrade Japhet Moyo, I recognize you. Workers of Zimbabwe, comrades and friends, distinguished guests, today we are gathered again on the 1st of May 2024. We gathered again last year in DZ Stadium to commemorate the same Workers' Day. As Zimbabwe Congress of Trade Unions, we are joining millions of workers around to commemorate this world important day that defines the working class struggles and achievements regardless of the situation we are faced with as workers in Zimbabwe. Chinhu chinonzwisa urombo kuti tinoramba ende tiri kuramba tichikomemoreta zuva ranhasi mushandi achishayiwa kuti orarama sei munyika yechipikirwa. Hatikanganise kuramba tichitaura vashandi chete, tisingakanganwe even the ordinary citizen where the workforce is coming from. The situation remains to be dire, comrades and friends. Despite years of promises that all will be well for the workers and the citizens in Zimbabwe. Tichangobva kunhau yeCovid-19. Tisati tapedza kutaura nhuna dzagara dziripo tisati tane COVID-19. Tisati tagadzirisirwa nhau dzevashandi muZimbabwe. Tatarisana zvekare neEl Nino drought. Zvinova izvo zviri kushungurudza mushandi nekuramba tichivhunza kuti zvazvadai so mushandi achararama here muZimbabwe. Comrades and friends, we totally understand that the economy of Zimbabwe is based on agriculture, and drought can affect Zimbabwe seriously. That's why it is continuing to be a main worry for us workers, that now that we are faced with a drought, how are we going to survive when we are failing to survive when there was no drought? Our continued fear as workers is that our government, as it is going to make sure that they bring aid that is mainly focusing at harnessing the drought that is before us. We have seen a lot of politicization of the aid that comes from the government by political parties. It is and remains to be an obligation of the government to make sure that its citizenry and the workers are well kept and are living a decent life. We continue to reiterate that the government, His Excellency, President Mnangagwa make sure that measures are going to be put in place so that no worker will be left behind in distribution of government or state aid because they belong to a certain political party. It remains again to be our continued fear that employers, as they always leverage on poverty, they are going to further exacerbate the suffering of workers in different sectors riding under the drought. Comrades and friends, we are already suffering, and there is serious stalling of collective bargaining processes in all sectors. So it calls all of us as workers, as citizens, to take the government and employers to task to make sure that the welfare of employees in Zimbabwe is decent. We are tired as workers. We have come to a point of realization that there is no movement at all as to how workers can be cushioned in the country of Zimbabwe. We have already a platform that has been alluded to, and this again takes us to the theme that we have as Zimbabwe Congress of Trade Unions, that workers, they demand an inclusive Zimbabwe, a Zimbabwe that is free from poverty, a Zimbabwe that is free from corruption, a Zimbabwe that is free from oppression, and we are calling the workers of Zimbabwe to arise. The themes that we have been moving with for the past decades as ZCTU, they continue to be the same. And this is a clear indication yekuti vashandi vari kurarama sei uye vari kuteererwa here munyika yeZimbabwe. The battle of the natural resources in Zimbabwe continue to be one of the biggest battles that we are struggling, and that we are continuing to demand that there be equity in distribution of the natural resources in Zimbabwe. Comrades and friends, allow me to speak as mandated, that this year's theme will continue to be a theme that will be spoken about. We are tired of the citizens of Zimbabwe that look at the so-called Mbinga as their bosses. Who is the Mbinga in Zimbabwe that dishes out lavishly when we can't afford a Panado in Zimbabwe? Who is the Mbinga in Zimbabwe that can call shots in the watch of the powers that be, that they are dishing out Satan breadcrumbs to the citizens of Zimbabwe when workers are wallowing in poverty? What kind of work are they doing in Zimbabwe that makes them to be rich more than the workforce of Zimbabwe when the workforce is struggling and they don't even know what to do with the ill-gotten money? Comrades and friends, the plight of workers over the years has not improved, but we are continuing to see the few within the Zimbabwe that are accessing wealth and they don't even know what to do with it. And to us, it's a clear indication that you are telling us that as workers in Zimbabwe, to work for Zimbabwe will not make you have a decent life, but you have to look for other means for survival so that we can also enjoy what the liberators of this country fought for. Hatisati takanganwa sevashandi kuti chinonzi urombo chii. Tiri kuramba tichiyeuchidzwa, tichiri nekugunun'una nekushungurudzika mumwoyo kuti zvichafambiswa sei uye zvichagadziriswa zvadii ndosaka tiri kuti vashandi ngatibatanei titarisane nedambudziko rikuramba richidzoka pamberi pedu. 2008 vashandi vese vari pano, you can still remember kuti tairarama sei. 2016 vashandi vari pano munoziva chakatiitsisa umwe urombo chakaunza mabond notes. Pensioners, they have lost all what they have worked for the best and interest of this country. Investments have totally been lost without any recourse. And again, over the years, we are continuing to see a trend that is not showing any remorse to the workforce in Zimbabwe, where we continue to have introductory of new policies that are not well consulted, that are more of a try and error to see how the workers will continue to suffer. We would want to reiterate and speak to the continued promulgation of monetary policies that are not consulted in Zimbabwe. Faith and trust remain to be the key drivers of any currency in any nation. None amongst us in Zimbabwe would want to know what is the backing of South African rand, what is the backing of a US dollar. But what we have confidence with is we have it in our pocket, and tomorrow we can still purchase with the same. In the absence of continued consultation and proper discussions around the issues of trust and faith in Zimbabwe, we will continue to discuss the same issues when it relates to currency. Comrades and friends, vashandi vari kuramba vachitambura. Zvinhu zvakaoma semutungamiri wevashandi kuti ndirambe ndichidzokorodza zvamuri kurarama nemararamiro amuri kuita. But zvakuda kuti isu sevashandi vese across political divide tigare pasi tionesane kuti tofamba sei. Dingindira ratiri kufamba naro ndiro richaramba richitigaidha kubva zuva ranhasi kusvika mushandi wemuZimbabwe apiwa chiremerera chake munyika yechipikiro. Comrades and friends, tine vashandi muZimbabwe vawandira kuinformal sector. Mavenda vari kutengesa matomati pamusika, vari kutengesa kuti vawane kurarama, vari kuramba zvekare vachimpunyikidzwa kuti vange vachitengesa zvavanazvo zvavasina kupiwa mari nehurumende kana kuti nani. Vatenga maputi nematomati kuti vawane kuraramisa mhuri munyika yakaoma. Tiri kuona kanzuru mugotsi. Tiri kukumbirisawo tichakwanisa kutaura kuti mushandi wemuZimbabwe muformal or informal sector ngaaremekedzerwe kodzero dzake dzaanadzo. Tiri kunzwa ende tinowirirana nedingindira inonzi nyika inovakwa nevene vayo. Vene venyika vashandi vemuZimbabwe. Mushandi wemuZimbabwe kana asina chiraramiro haavake nyika inoyi, hapana vene vanotaurwa, mushandi achitambura. Comrades and friends, vene venyika munyika yeZimbabwe havadarike vashandi vemuZimbabwe. Vene venyika muZimbabwe vashandi vemuZimbabwe. Tinoramba tichitaura tichiinsista kuti Zimbabwe inoumbwa nevashandi vemuZimbabwe. mafambiro avanoita, mararamiro anoita ndo determination yeikonomi yeZimbabwe. Hapana anokwanisa kutiudza kuti nyika yeZimbabwe yanaka mushandi achinhonga shoshe nemuromo. Mademands andinawo ari kubva kuvashandi vemuZimbabwe ndekuti vashandi vemuZimbabwe vari kudhimanda mari inotenga munyika yeZimbabwe isingamuke ichinzi mangwana yapera, isingamuke ichinzi mangwana haichatenge, isingamuke mangwana mushandi asingaziye kuti ndogara nayo here kana kuti ndoregedza. We demand full compliance of the labor law, respect by investors. Hakuna investor ane simba kudarika vashandi vemuZimbabwe. MaChina, MaIndia pamunouya kuzoinvesta muZimbabwe, hamukwanise kuramba muchimbunyikidza kodzero dzevashandi nekuti maunzwa nemabhururu enyu munyika yeZimbabwe. We command and we continue to demand full respect of the rule of law in Zimbabwe. Alignment of the constitution in Zimbabwe is important. Not to politicization of the food aid in Zimbabwe. There should be a stop of sexual harassment in Zimbabwe. Comrades and friends, I wish to thank you all for listening to the demands as they are continued to be portrayed in Zimbabwe by the Zimbabwean workers. No political party is going to direct the ZCTU and the workers in Zimbabwe because they want us to toe their political line. We will continue to speak on behalf of the workers, and only the workers' voice will prevail in Zimbabwe regardless of their political inclinations and what they want and how they want things directed in Zimbabwe. Thank you so much.